welcome. PechaKucha Night, Burlington, volume 35. And another sold-out evening for us, so thank you all for your support. So I always like to start off with a show of hands. Who's here for the first time? Oh, wow. Okay, great. It's actually a little bit less than normal, so folks are coming back. That's tremendous. All right. Well, PechaKucha Night, it started about 20 years ago. It's actually 20 years old. And it was started by an American architecture firm that was operating out of Japan. And this firm thought that their colleagues in the industry were a little long-winded when it came to presentations. So they got to thinking, well, what if we mixed it up a little bit? What if we changed that format a little bit? And so they thought, well, let's limit them to 20 slides, just 20. And then they thought, well, that'll get it down to 20 slides, but then they can talk for a long time. So let's limit them to 20 seconds. And then here was the ringer. We're going to make them move automatically. So there's no override. When you see these slideshows, 6 minutes, 40 seconds, and it's all automatic. So PechaKucha in Japanese, as I understand, sort of means chit-chat. So it's 6 minutes and 40 seconds, and you'll see that there are a number of people walking around this evening wearing black T-shirts that have 6 minutes, 40 seconds. Now, we're not religious zealots, even though it looks a bit like a Bible verse that we're sporting there. Now, this is the length of a presentation, 20 slides, 20 seconds, 6 minutes, 40 seconds. So you might ask yourself, why do we do this? And we've been doing it here for quite a long time. And, the easy answer is that it's a lot of fun. But if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find that one of the things that makes PechaKucha Night so special is that it builds a sense of community through the sharing of stories and the sharing of our passions, what really moves us. And if we all reflect a little bit on this past year and the very challenging times that faced so many Vermonters in the wake of the heavy rains and the flooding that followed, we realize, if we take a moment, the importance of community. Because one of the great treasures that's in our brave little state is the sense of value that we have in building strong communities to support each other, to help each other in these times of needs. So tonight is really about community. And one of the new slogans that we're gonna test drive is that PechaKucha is about building community and curiosity where they converge. So you're the first to hear that. So I said, 20 years old. It's in 140 countries right now. It's a global phenomenon, 1,300 cities. We've been doing it here in Burlington since 2010. This is our 35th volume, so we've had over 360 unique presentations for PechaKucha Night. Thank you. So I want to first recognize our lead sponsor, Mascoma Bank. Mascoma Bank came on board in 2018 when we decided that we wanted to take PechaKucha Night to the next level and bring it into a forum like this. We couldn't do it on our own. We wanted to keep the ticket prices reasonable, and Mascoma Bank stepped up and helped us to do that. As a certified B corporation, Mascoma Bank has donated over $1 million to over 150 nonprofits in Chittenden County alone. So, yeah. So when I say that the passion of us at PechaKucha Night is, sharing passions, the passion of Mascoma Bank is clearly community, and we thank them. I also want to recognize the support that we get from the Media Factory. These guys have been here filming every one of our PechaKucha Nights. They film them, they edit them, they put them up on their website. So if you couldn't make a PechaKucha Night, or if you want to share it with a relative that lives across the country, you can do that. So Media Factory, thank you so much. Solidarity. Give them a hand. solidarity of unbridled labor helps us in so many ways. One of the most important is that they have lent their substantial creative chops to help us sort of redefine the brand of PechaKucha Night and the presentation of PechaKucha Night and who we are and who we can aspire to be. So thank you to Solidarity. And of course, 7 days. 7 days has been with us since the PechaKucha #1 that was held at the Fleming Museum back in 2010. They've been supporting us through all 35 volumes, and they continue to support so many cultural organizations in our community. The creative sector of Burlington, Chittenden County really thrives as a result of the support that 7 days gives us all. And we're going to shout out for you guys. Thank you for sticking with us for all these years, 13 years, supporting us, supporting your neighbors, supporting your friends, supporting your family members who come up here, and actually supporting the folks who we hope won't be strangers for very long. So thank you all. So we got a great lineup tonight. We've got 9 great presenters. You'll notice that we did advertise 10, but COVID did visit upon one of our presenters. Actually, 2 of our presenters, and we had one presenter step up in the 9th inning and help us out. So, yeah. So we have a great lineup of exciting presentations. The way that it works is we do 5 presentations, and then we take a brief 15-minute intermission. We believe in the importance of hydration, proper hydration. There is a bar at the back of the building. And then we'll come back after 15 minutes and have 4 more presentations. You guys ready to begin? All right. Our first presenter this evening, Clark Russell. And the title of his presentation, Friendly Neighborhood Punk Abstract Artist. Clark.
I made a bunch of new friends in Riddleville on display at the Tarrant Gallery a year ago. Testing 1, 2, 3 adult viewers retreated in Riddleville for openly weeping. 2 youngsters refused to leave. 4 thefts were tallied, and 1 mysterious return. Riddleville's What's It to You award goes to a lovely couple peering into the installation through an outside window, the husband grumbling away about something when his wife announced, "It's time for you to stop talking about it, Stanley. Just get out your soldering gun and start doing it." I decided not to post in the gallery, "Is all that we have worth all we have done?" because I didn't want people seeing the literally figurative sanctuary city of Riddleville through any particular lens. Besides, I just work here, and mainly on abstract wall sculpture and painting collage. And I write lyrics and sing songs in a conscious punk band. Blowtorch played CBGB's back in the day, Burlington in a couple weeks. Blowtorch's musical wizard Bill Mullins and I rocked as teens at UVM. Our college band No Fun led off the first all-ages punk show in Vermont. The Knights of Columbus, having been duped into renting out their hall, a flipping punk rock riot broke out the instant we started our set. Graduating UVM spring 1983, No Fun's final act took place at the Flynn Theater and featured young skater punks main stage diving into the orchestra mosh pit. Bill Mullins and I forged Blowtorch a few years later. Blowtorch played one of the earliest shows at Burlington's 242 Main Youth Center and at an unoccupied waterfront warehouse where hours after a wild reggae dub art punk bash, cops drew guns on me sleeping with unprotected band gear. I hung out with The Clash 3 times after shows. Sitting next to Joe Strummer backstage in Montreal, I asked, "Joe, through your music, are you trying to foster a sense of community, or are you celebrating individuality?" Strummer tipped his beer and replied, "I'll have to get back to you on that one, mate." Making the rounds, Joshing with Mick Jones, the sly guitarist handed me a lit spliff and muttered, "I want that Soviet belt buckle you're wearing." Shaking my head, "No dice," Mick cackled, "Well, then you're not going to Eastern Europe with us." I chirped back, "I had no intention of going to," and Jonesy roared, "You're not going to Eastern Europe with us." Mick's outburst drew the attention of a Canadian security guy who started me on my way back to the States. Sitting right there, Joe Drummer tracked my pantomime resistance as I was being guided to the door. Joe raised his bottle, flashed me a jagged grin, and shouted in a hoarse British accent, "Individuality." Art activists in 1980s Burlington formed a guerrilla theater troupe called Safari 500. Under a barrage of sounds and hail of poetry, Safari 500 took hostages at shows, executed live paintings on stage, played dead after leading illegal anti-imperialism marches down Church Street. 3 separate cans of red spray paint blew up during Safari 500's run. Improvisational music permeated our Reagan-era art actions. Myself, a collector of sonic samples, Tom Lawson and I founded in the 1990s a sound collage improv ensemble called Recon. We performed live at a toxic waste dump and humongous fish festival, Higher Ground, and here at Flynn Space, Tarrant 2. I play in bands, but art is my work. Speaking with a friend, a stranger entered the conversation and asked me, "So what do you do?" Before I could answer, my friend explained, "He takes things apart and makes it art." Emerson wrote, "Here is the artist himself, improvising, grim and glad." Standing small in my downtown Burlington art studio, loaded up with scrap metal, making wall sculptures is for me like so much atom smashing. Aluminum and steel gets bent, shaped, twisted, cut, and thrown around. I'm looking for what new forms. Noticing structure in the chaos, I'm becoming aesthetically concerned. My artistic remedy includes 51% affirmation and 49% questioning. Nothing good comes easy. The better you want things to be, the more difficult it is to achieve. Let's make it happen. Have to wait and see. Grim and glad simultaneously. I find myself pacing in a clockwise ring around forming artworks on the studio floor. I've seen victorious lions on TV similarly encircling their fallen prey and try not to jump to conclusions. An anonymous viewer wrote of my art in a New York gallery guestbook, "Structures suggest destruction of patriarchy." Perhaps I could add that I look to share a vision rather than state a point of view. I aim for frank expression and leave what else to you. My wall sculptures do not proclaim or portray. They would rather sing than say. Abstract in nature, made of real-life matter, drawn from the world, parts unknown, combined, composed, and connected strands, signs of life forms. The resulting artworks are 3-dimensional constructs of rhyme and reason, chaos and cohesion, preservation and renewal, reality and potential. Call them transformations, outgrowths, composites, portals, realms. If these wall sculptures raise questions, they don't claim answers. They are not meant to be understood so much as sensed, are not about something else, but are actual themselves. And I won't rest my case until intersectional art is legal in all 50 states.
Thank you, Clark. Thanks for kicking off the evening for us. Our next presenter is Cynde Strand with her presentation titled Mistakes. Please welcome to the stage, Cynde.
How's that? I just wanted to say it's lovely to be back in Vermont, and all your squirrels and skunks and raccoons I'm happy I'm back, because when they see my Georgia license plate, they jump out in the middle of the road and give me a big hello. This is called Mistakes, and it's just a poem about mistakes that I wanted to share with you tonight, so if you want to start. I spent a lifetime passionately taking pictures that tell the story of the best and the worst in all of us. I traveled the world from one big story to the next. CNN producer would routinely call me saying, "I am promising you yet another trip of a lifetime." And off I would go down the Congo River or the Ho Chi Minh Trail. My life was a quest for the perfect shot. This takes patience and the ability to anticipate when the magic will happen. The light, movement, a hand gesture, a touch, a tear, and sometimes a look. I carried the responsibility that comes with documenting some of the most intimate, some of the most vulnerable moments in a person's life. I tried to honor their stories with perfect shots in difficult places, and the people really had no choice. I can probably get a few amens from this crowd here tonight for how many times I said, "Hold on, just a minute, wait a second, look this way," as I bobbed and danced and dipped for the perfect angle. My son only tolerated it because he got a lot of Instagram love in his teenage years. One day I was deleting the not perfect pictures from my phone, and I had a spiritual awakening. These mistakes were spontaneous, fun and funny, and full of unfettered joy. They captured feelings more purely than a perfectly composed frame. We all have these pictures, the self-timer catastrophes. I was photobombing the free sofa my friend dragged out into her street. I was going for a Cindy Sherman-style avant-garde composition, and I ended up ass over tea kettle. And as I laughed, the lightness of photography returned. Give me the misfire selfie. Forget the perfect selfie. The quest for more attention, more likes, more love, more clicks. I love the simplicity of this silliness with my sister before her life got complicated. And how could I delete this masterpiece mistake? Have you all taken these? French expressionism on the run. The same run that my phone unfortunately dialed my boss and he overheard how I really felt from mile 6 to mile 10. And those times when your phone magically misfires from inside your spandex bike shorts. 50 shots that look like modern art hanging in MoMA. But now I no longer hit delete, 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 delete. Some people love to point out other people's mistakes, and when they do, we shrink inside. But I grew bigger with these mistakes. I fell in love with the big oops, the perfection of imperfection. And this is my favorite mistake. I have been lucky to walk down many red carpets during my career, award ceremonies and fancy functions with famous people, but nothing is as beautiful as walking down a Vermont red carpet. This is my I don't know why mistake. I don't know why, but it reminds me of my precious childhood. I was wild and free and weird. I wanted so badly for Pippi Longstocking to be my best friend. She was brave and independent and clever, and she lived in a colorful house with a monkey and a horse. This is my just say yes mistake, Tess. A near miss. It was a perfect sunny winter Friday, and I almost said no to drinks with my friends. This was the last Friday before COVID lockdown. Just say yes. Step into your discomfort. Yes takes you to amazing places like Vermont. I have been on top of many, many mountains, and the views are always magnificent. But this mistake captures the feeling. of being off the mountain and being tired and satisfied and hungry and whole. There is nothing like the feeling of taking off your boots. This is the beginning of my depression mistake. I am an extreme extrovert, and during COVID, I got depressed. Gee, it wasn't like, oh, gee, I'm depressed. It was, I can't get out of bed depressed. My mistake was not telling anyone. But I corrected that mistake, and people started showing up for me. These mad women started banging on my door every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday at 6:30 a.m., banging until I got out of bed, put on my shoes, opened the door, and started running with them. So this mistake reminds me that sometimes it just takes one step followed by another, and I can help others by banging on their doors. Many of these mistakes happened when my cell phone malfunctioned. I had to hold it down to forcibly re-engage the shutter button. I started to make some pretty perfect mistakes. I don't re-prosecute my past mistakes, the could haves, should have, would haves, this kind of liberation makes it possible to shed layers and live the life you want to live. This mistake is called, I wondered what happened to those pants. And I wondered what page I'm in. Dang, I love those pants. I looked so good in those pants. Make no mistake, I have earned every wrinkle, but at 65, it is nice to remember feeling so hot in those crazy red pants. This was supposed to be a picture of another perfect sunset at Susan's house, but these are my pajamas my son picked out for me when he was 4 years old, and 20 years I wear them still. This is the picture of love, larger than the ever-expanding universe. This is a mother's love. And now my last mistake, a perfect shot. Another adventure under a bluebird sky, frost on my pigtails, and the realization that I am Pippi Longstocking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynde. I get the unique privilege of actually seeing all the slides before the slideshow to put together the main presentation. And as I was looking through all those pictures, I was thinking, these look like a lot of mistakes. And it's so wonderful to hear the narrative bring the joy of finding the beauty in those. Thank you so much. Our next presentation is from Alan Newman, Cars a Sculpture. Alan.
Thanks, Chris. As an early teen coming of age in the 50s and early 60s, there wasn't a lot that got through to me emotionally. The hormones were running rampant, and the really two things I cared about were cars and girls. I understood cars a lot better, and that really started my appreciation of cars. Since art really evokes emotion, I'm here to share some of the cars that did and continue to evoke a wide range of emotions with me, in the hopes that as you go back in the world and as you travel around and you see some of these rolling sculptures, you'll learn to appreciate them. Hit it. So this is the first slide because this is the first group that really got to me. Studebaker was a really little independent company, and they were turning out cars like nothing else. You got to remember, this is 1954, I think. 54, they were turning out that car. That was like nothing else on the road. I first saw it, my eyes just popped out of my head. And that was the beginning of the Big Fin series. This car here, I had a counselor in camp in 1958, 59, and I just fell in love with the fins on this car. And every time I saw this car, it reminded me I was in a spaceship, and we would travel into town, cruising. This one here I put in because of the grill. You know, the grills to me are fascinating. They're kind of like the logo for a company. And this is really the first time I saw a company put a grill on that was totally unique, distinctive, and really set off the car. And notice the fins. The fins are still there. I had a bunch of friends when I was growing up, and we all had cars. One of my friends' father owned a gas station, and we used to gather there to fix cars on Sundays because the gas station was closed. This was his car. And when the 63 split window Corvette came out, it was mind-boggling. It led to the paying more attention to the sports cars. This Jaguar was 140, which was in the middle of the 120 and the 150. You probably don't know this, but you're starting to see the UK look of the 50s and 60s with the short back and the long hood, and you're going to see this was my all-time favorite. I always thought that having a late 50s, early 60s Rolls Royce to get around on a cold winter night, that's the way to travel. But I just loved the way they continued with the same look. All their cars in the late 50s and early 60s had that same long front, nice short back. This is an Austin Healey 3000. This is a Mark III, not a Mark I, not a Mark II, but a Mark III. This actually had roll-up windows and everything. It was really kind of a cool car. But the reason this is here, aside from the fact that I love it, we used to ride up. We used to go out for dates on Friday night, and then at 2 o'clock in the morning we'd meet and we'd ride up to Meyer, New York, and I would drive. This was another friend, and this is the car that blew my mind away when it came out. This was the car that was on every college dorm window wall. It's a Jaguar XKE, and I learned to drag race on Meadowbrook Parkway in this car. Now we come to, you're looking at the Volkswagen Bug. Now, why is this sculpture, you might be saying? Why is this art? Well, number one, it's been around for over 50 years. It's basically unchanged. The look of this was the people's car created by Adolf Hitler for all of his people, but the shape of it was incredible. And you'll see that shape is not totally different on the 190 SL, the Mercedes. This was the everyman version of the 300 SL. I always wanted a 300 SL, but I couldn't afford it. I actually think the proportions on this are even better, and it's absolutely a stunning car that is still around. I put these two here so you can see the old and the new. BMW back in the 50s made this 507, which is the top picture. It was a spectacular car, incredible performance for the day, just really beautiful. And then they came out, they decided to redo it in 2010 with the Z8, nowhere near as good, but much better performance. The Lamborghini Miura, this was on more college dorm walls than any other car in the world. It just blew the world away when it came out back in the 60s and remains fabulous today. This is my second favorite Ferrari. It came in a short wheel and a long wheel version. Ferraris, in my mind, they sing like opera singers. The sound gets into my brain and it causes traffic tickets really badly. This was, I think, the most beautiful. This is my favorite. This, to me, is the archetypical American Italian sports car. It was designed to make it look like it goes fast, and they were great cars, and today they're still as beautiful, in my opinion. They're iconic and as beautiful today as they ever were. Next, we're going to move to France, and this is the French equivalent of the Volkswagen Bug. This was the French everyman's car, but as you can see, it was designed by the French. Why do I say that? Well, they took all sorts of pieces and they put them together, and somehow they hold together. We're walking into the Art Deco. I discovered a thing called the Moulton Museum. If you're online, you want to see something great, go to the Moulton Museum in Oxnard, California. It's built in an Art Deco building, and he's got all these fabulous Art Deco cars from the 30s. Most of them were French. This one here is a chit. Now we're back to France. The rest of them are all French cars during the Art Deco period when these bodies were handmade. They would buy a chassis from one manufacturer, and then they would make a car that was in a style that they thought would be worth driving in. And there's a group of them coming here that they're just absolutely stunningly gorgeous. And seeing them in person is just, if these are not sculpture, then I don't know what is. They're fabulous pieces of history that were developed during an Art Deco period, that they brought that same thought about how they put lines together, how they put pieces together, and how they make it work in a car. Most of you, I assume many of you have heard of Bugattis. There's a new one out that has none of this character, none of this class, but it'll go 0 to 60 in 1.1 seconds, and it'll drive at 250 miles an hour. This is the last of the Art Deco period. Again, I really want to, if you like these cars and you're curious, check out the Moulton Museum out in Oxnard, California. And as you travel around, pay attention to the cars that you're seeing. There are some really spectacular cars out there today, and in my opinion, they are art.
Thank you, Alan. Our next presenter coming to the stage, Severance, with her. You all know Lynn. Yeah. All right. With her presentation, Unfinished Business.
Well, okay, let's do it. Let it rip. Hi, I'm Lynn Severance, and tonight I'm going to tell you about some unfinished business of mine. It's an unfinished quilt. I went to art school to major in metalsmithing until I spent an entire semester pounding on a flat sheet of metal to form a 3D vessel. With no idea of what I wanted to do instead, I dropped out and accompanied my best friend in her junior year abroad to Scotland. This is Scotland. The plan was to find work while Wendy attended the University of Edinburgh. That's Wendy. What I did not know about was the idea of work visas and things like that, so I had some time on my hands. Edinburgh was amazing, but it was also very gray, damp, and cold. It was so cold. I needed a quilt, so I got to work and I designed one, an alphabet quilt. This was my first sketch. Without a sewing machine, I started with an A, hand sewing, applique, embroidery, a little trapunto here and there, and I ended up with Z, skipping 5 letters whose designs I wasn't quite satisfied with. It took me all year in Scotland to make these 21 pieces, but during the making of them, I discovered that I wasn't so enamored with the craft of making. It was the design process that moved me. Almost to the week, 50 years ago, I found the Edinburgh College of Art library. It was a magnificent building full of art and design books open to this unemployable young American, and best of all, it was warm. It was there that I dove into my self-study of design, typography, calligraphy, textile design, color, and illustration, and where I made the quilt design. A light bulb went off for me. I loved the design process, illustrating each letter, working with letter forms, finding fabric in all just the right colors and patterns. Typography, illustration, words, color, 2D design, that's graphic design. That's what I wanted to do with my life. I applied to art schools. I applied to RISD, Pratt, Parsons School of Design, got into all of them, but I decided New York City, Manhattan, was really where I wanted to study design. I rolled up the 21 quilt pieces, tied a big red ribbon around them, and used the quilt pieces as my portfolio to get into the communication design department at Parsons. Once accepted, I set the quilt aside. I had endless projects to complete over the next few years. But this unfinished project wasn't done giving. I spent years ignoring it, and a number of years feeling burdened by the unfinished nature of the project. I also spent way too much time making all kinds of judgments and excuses about why I would never even want to finish it. Like, wasn't the design just too juvenile? I mean, I wanted to think I had developed a more sophisticated design sensibility. Or I had wanted a usable quilt, but these pieces had turned out to be complex and too fragile to stand up to daily use. Very impractical. Or how about this one? With my lack of experience, I hadn't included enough seam allowance in some of my pieces. How would they ever fit together into one big quilt as planned? As the years marched on and the fabric was vintage 1973, modern fabric doesn't quite match up. And since I wasn't satisfied with the designs for the missing letters, I started making lists of B, F, L, V, and W words to inspire better designs. But my heart wasn't in the making part. Oh yeah, I lost all the pieces for a good 10 years, maybe more. Accidentally, on purpose, I don't know. Blah, 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 blah. I could go on with excuses and reasons not to finish this project. But there are a few people in my life who every once in a while ask about the quilt and encourage me to finish it. And there is this little voice that pipes up every so often, would you just finish the damn quilt? But, hey, this unfinished project keeps on giving. It cemented my enduring passion for graphic design, and it got me into a top-notch design school. It exposed my judgmental thinking and self-criticism, and it got me up here tonight to face my fears in public speaking. One thing it didn't do is keep me warm through that raw Edinburgh winter. You know, I don't think I'm gonna finish it. I think I'm gonna patiently wait for the next challenge it sends my way. Any of you out here have any unfinished business or any unfinished projects? What's your unfinished project trying to teach you? Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. All right, so our last presenter of the first half is Kyra Dissinger. Yes, a relation. And the title of her presentation this evening, Happiness. Kyra.
Hello. Let's get rolling. Happiness. It's what we're all here for, right? Success as happiness, happiness as success, getting to live a life rich in good. I'm sure most of us would like to be happy and wish our loved ones even more happiness. I generally enjoy being happy. I like feeling good, but not too good, because that's suspicious. My therapist asked me if that's because I think I don't deserve that happiness. I said, no, I fear that the happier I am, the more fleeting the happiness is. I do know for a fact that pleasure is fleeting. The intense joy I get from biting into a tomato just off the vine, feeling my dog's fur as he sleeps, or finishing an episode from my favorite TV show. I love these things, but they only last for so long. Fulfillment, on the other hand, lasts much longer, but the process of achieving it may not include feeling good. Cleaning the bathroom, working out, weaving in the ends of my knitted sweater, or maybe just trying to get out of bed. Pleasure, fulfillment, I seem to be missing something. Contentment, though it is the most fleeting. To me, contentment encompasses the brief moments of absolute peace, like walking through the forest and feeling as though a piece of you has healed. Then last week, my professor used the term eudaimonia. It's an ancient Greek word often translated into happiness. However, it is used to describe prolonged well-being, self-improvement, and gaining meaning. If we wish someone happiness, we must mean the eudaimonic kind. Socrates thought that a virtuous life was the best way to achieve eudaimonia, to be ethically and intellectually wise in every given moment. Though it would be very nice if we spent our whole lives like Socrates in pursuit of a good soul and the right choices, it is not the whole picture. Maybe some happiness is meant to be fleeting. I don't know about you, but if achieving eudaimonia was a sign of a good life, I feel like I might be failing. I don't always make the right choices or have the most intellectually stimulating interactions. I'd like to think that a happy life is appreciating the times where you do make the right choices and have a good moment. But I also think that means appreciating the times where you make bad choices, have a bad moment, and feel like you are failing. The question now becomes, what are we doing to appreciate all these times? Is it gratitude? Sometimes I put my hand on my chest and I close my eyes. But that's just me. There must be so many other ways to experience happiness. So how might my friends experience it? Joe says that he experiences happiness in the moment and chooses not to live in the future where that happiness has already ended. A life full of these moments, he says, is the product of your present self. He says it's a privilege to achieve that without much effort. My other friend Gabe says that it's been a while since he felt a lot of happy moments. Happy moments to him feel like comfort and safety. Now Gabe is choosing to reassess what he wants in life and is finding his sense of self. And that's where he feels the happiest right now. My boyfriend Josh experiences happiness when he is most relaxed and feels safe. He says it helps him escape some of his daily stressors. Most importantly, he says he is happiest when he can be himself and be goofy around the people he loves and not take things too seriously. His brother Isaac said that happiness goes hand in hand with many things. In his own words, especially with endearing and respectful company with similar interests. For Isaac, friendships, relationships, and family is everything, and video games. I found out through my friends that happiness is experienced very differently. If we all had an end goal of happiness, then it would seem my friends were at completely different stages in achieving that goal, which I think would be absolutely absurd. They all seem like they're doing pretty great. And then it hits me. Maybe I was wrong from the beginning. I was wrong that we aren't all here for happiness. If we were trying to be happy all the time, to appreciate both the good things and the bad things, then where is the room for anything else? What would be the point of crying or hitting a wall out of anger, feeling anger? And I think that's what we all are here for and what we all have in common. We all are living, I hope, and living seems like a good goal to have. But aren't we all feeling something too? Isn't that the point of being human? Besides trying to survive, feeling really powerful feelings, and maybe those feelings are happiness and appreciating everything. Or maybe it's thinking that everything effing sucks. So take this slide to think about what you are feeling right now. And when the next slide comes up, I want you to shout out what you are feeling, no matter what it is. Or even just shout in your head if that's what you're comfortable with. And I think I'm going to count down to 1, 2, 3. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Woo! Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to start off our second half of the evening with Ferene Maier. Yeah. And her presentation, Thoughts on the Heart. Ferene.
I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. Your daughter's this radiant, tall goddess coming in at a nice 5'2". Before I start, I just want to take a moment to show gratitude for all the storytellers this evening. It is not easy to come up on stage and put yourself out there. It comes with such a risk, hoping that people will hold your story. So to those that have brought their full selves and those that will after this presentation, thank you. Because I was at the library today, and it says, in the end, we all become stories, right? So, yeah. Let's do this. No, I won't let you, my Black queen, question your beauty, your warmth, your grace. No. Not today, my Black queen. Do not be apologetic for how you show up in this space. From the moment that I can remember, my Black Haitian heart has had to gift myself affirmations that I believe are medicine to do this thing called life, to get out of bed. Because unfortunately, no matter how I might see my love and my worth, there are different identities we all hold as humans that are making people put stories on us that may not be ours. I come before you as a proud Haitian daughter of immigrant parents. I come as one, but I stand as 10,000, representing the first Black republic to get their independence back from colonizers in 1804. Right? I try so much to remind myself why I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, that Black is beautiful, that we are worthy, because less than 150 years ago, this country only saw me as 3/5. And I think sometimes when I'm in a conversation with someone, or when I'm trying to be that empowering person for my daughters of color, or when I'm trying to literally put myself in the streets and fight for what I feel is injustices happening right here in the Queen City, I feel the interactions one might have with me as if I'm only 3/5. Forgetting that we as human hold things. I am not shy about, I move through this world with anxiety and depression, counting on a pill daily to help me do this thing called life that loves to turn us upside and down and left and right. And yes, I wish that I could anchor all my energy in thriving. But it seems like these environments that I find myself in simply want to keep me in survival mode. There's this beautiful poem by this poet named Queen Wahid, and she says, all the women in me are tired. You know, and there are so many folks who might identify as women in this room. So it's like, oh, as a woman, I'm tired, but also as a Black woman, I'm tired. And as a mother, I'm tired. And as a business owner, I am tired. As someone who is in the street saying, please see me and my community as more than 3/5. I'm exhausted. But I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change, because that prescription to life is bullshit. Because if we do that, we will be in this constant circle of pain and in compassion and not reminding that we are all worthy of love. And so I channel my Angela Davis, fro fist out. I do what I can. I'm a storyteller. I'm someone who believes in the power of stories. You are sitting in a space that has been a storytelling home for me and other amazing brown and black storytellers when we would convene in this space, reminding each other again why we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. But I find myself, even though I know my calling and my gift is to use this craft, my heart, my stories, vulnerability. I have no problem you seeing inside my heart. But I just hope that what I'm showing you within my heart won't be used to weaponize against me. Because I, like so many others, am searching for love. I, like so many others, have done the challenges and the obstacles and all the various things to show up here and be like, see me, love me, choose me. And I'm so grateful for spaces like this, for stages, whether it's your standard stage like this one or ones that I have found on the sailboats of Whistling Man Schooner right on Lake Champlain. Every summer gifting 50 Black Vermonters a 2-hour storytelling sale, reminding them, do you hear the theme? You are your ancestors' wildest dreams. Because too often, though I want to swim and back float, and do strokes in what I know is amazing Black joy, Black excellent, Black art, where we come together and we exist as we are so deserving of. I try my best to remind organizations in this community, do you just want to be a business in the community? Or do you want to be a community business? And I'm so grateful for the love notes that you can send emails blindly, like zero gravity, and say, hi, do you know something called Loving Day? You make beer, I spread love, let's collaborate. For those who might dabble at Hotel Vermont, you may have tasted my signature Haitian rum cake. For some, it's just a piece of cake, but that too is telling a story of what it means. In this moment, I can't wave a wand and take all your problems away, but I made this love with cake and intentions, and I hope that it can gift you a sweet moment. I am trying my best to say yes to the different assignments this community wants to give me because I exist here. I'm raising kids here. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a neighbor. I'm so many different things. So yes, I will take the call. I will be your speaker for Juneteenth. I will show up and create dinner series that slow us down to do this, what's happening in this moment, that we are so many layers and fabrics of these vibrant patterns that bring us in how we exist today. And I truly believe, one story at a time, that we can make a difference. But then all of a sudden I'm caught and an obstacle is thrown in my way. This image, I still haven't healed from this image because less than 2 years ago, someone wrote the N-word on my car. And I asked myself, what is it about how loud I love or how I exist or how I want to speak truths that people are in denial about? But you know what? That's not mine to hold because I'm here. I know who I am. I am the ancestry again of the first Black Republic to say no thank you. And I know that I am deserving of not just surviving, but thriving at this thing called life because I come here with deep love. Thank you.
Thank you, Ferene. Our next presenter this evening, Eric Meyer, and his presentation, Concrete Images. Please welcome to the stage, Eric.
Thank you. I've decided I'm nervous, so if I pass out, it's just a panic attack. These are photographs that I took in Mexico on a trip last year, film photographs. There's a couple of others by other photographers in there too. If you're curious, you can talk to me after. Okay, yeah. Here's a photograph that I took on a residential street in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. My photography from this trip plays with our impressions of concrete structures in different contexts. Here's another photo from the trip from the Pacific beaches of Jalisco. This image reminds me of the Mediterranean, maybe like ancient Greece. To me, it feels contemplative, peaceful. Back in Guadalajara, it's a different feeling here. There's unconscious or semi-conscious associations. These signals carry certain messages, maybe even feelings of fear around personal safety. But I'm not in the aesthetic dimension necessarily. But part of me during this part of the trip was still drawn in by the beauty of these structures, especially because I had my camera with me. And with a camera, you have the chance to frame the picture, to choose what's in the lens, and that encourages us to think about the compositional qualities of the world around us. I love this one. To me, it exists right at the crossroads of, historical and beautiful, like the beach shot, versus more dilapidated. Honestly, this was from I wouldn't say sketchy part of Guadalajara, but it was a little odd. This is original. Let's see. My original intent was to shoot the fancy brutalist buildings in Mexico, and this is a photo I took on the way. This is Aero Serenen's TWA terminal, and here's a historical shot from 1962 when the building was unveiled. This is by the photographer Ezra Stoller, who's an amazing and influential photographer in the world of architecture. Here's a quote from this lofty sort of world that Serenen made buildings in, and this is Louis Kahn. Rejecting the obvious distinctions between walls and openings, lines and planes, 2 and 3 dimensions, transparency and opaqueness, this building is characterized by a distinctive type of abstractness. And here's another building from that world. It's the Royal National Theatre in London. This is Lasdon. The photographer is Ian Campo. In 1988, Prince Charles said this structure was a clever way of building a nuclear power station in the middle of London without anyone objecting. My goal when I visited Guadalajara was just to experience the city. The 2 things on my itinerary were a soccer match and a trip to the Valentina hot sauce factory. But in the neighborhood I was staying, I began to experience the abstract qualities of beauty in just the homes in the neighborhood that I was expecting to see in Mexico City with the more traditional brutalist kind of lofty structures there. So the mental associations that I mentioned before, they're often subconscious or semi-conscious and pretty deep. You can't just say like, oh, this is going to be beautiful now. But I did find myself starting to experience that in the city. So this is Nuevo Mercado Libertad, which was built in 1959. It was designed by Alejandro Zahn. And what's interesting is when I was on the trip, I was like, oh, I'm discovering this sort of play between high and low art. And then when I got back and did some research, the architects already were thinking that way and already were playing with that stuff. So here's another picture of that market looking down, and they're not trying to make it like the TWA terminal. There's lots of exposed wires, and it's kind of, I don't know, ugly in some ways, but that's just the day-to-day life of Guadalajara. This is a shot I took from above. It's Jalisco is where birria is from. If anyone's had that recently, it's pretty hip in the U.S. right now. It's a stew, usually goat. This is one of the best lunches that I think I've ever had. Let's see. All right, this is a photo by Erica Siegel of Roof Terrace by Louis Barragan. And Barragan won the Pritzker Prize, which is considered to be like the Nobel Prize of architecture. In his acceptance speech, he said, The lessons to be learned from the unassuming architecture of the village and provincial towns of my country have been a permanent source of inspiration. Here's another of Erica Siegel's photographs from the interior of that same building. In art theory, we might say that this structure exists at the junction of representation and non-representation. In a spiritual practice, we might just call that sublime. I took this photograph of a monument designed by the same person, Louis Barragan, but it was only recently installed. He designed it like 30 or 40 years ago, and it was installed just in a pretty normal intersection in sort of the outskirts of Guadalajara. I found it to be beautiful and only later realized that he had designed it. Here's a church that was under construction when I was there. Barragan said later in the same speech, "It's alarming that publications devoted to architecture have banished from their pages the words beauty, inspiration, magic, spellbound, enchantment, as well as the concepts of serenity, silence, intimacy, and amazement. All these have nestled in my soul, and though I am fully aware that I have not done them complete justice in my work, they have never ceased to be my guiding lights." He continues, "Beauty, the invincible difficulty that the philosophers have in defining the meaning of this word, is unequivocal proof of its ineffable mystery. Beauty speaks like an oracle, and ever since man has heeded its message in an infinite number of ways." Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Our next presenter this evening, Frances Cannon. Please welcome Frances to the stage with her presentation on the art of translating science.
Hit it. So I'm here to talk about the art of translating science, and specifically how creative writing and visual art can bring science and nature research to a more broad and diverse audience. Many of the paintings in my presentation revolve around a project that is called Floruli Iconis, and I do not speak Latin. Who does? So I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I definitely looked it up on Google like 10 times today just to make sure I could approximate the pronunciation, but it doesn't matter. Basically, the project is to create flower icons, which is the translation of Floruli Iconis. And these flower icons are not just going to be about flowers, but they are my passion and inspiration and witnessing of nature and science in Vermont and tracking changes over time, including dipping back into historical surveys of biodiversity in Vermont. And so these paintings are basically each small icon. They're each 3 inches by 3 inches. And they include some common names, although common names can be slippery. And so I usually just pick my favorite common name and then include the Latin binomial, which is just easier to identify internationally. And also with a written description, which I haven't included because you wouldn't be able to read them fast enough, but they're just also short, basic descriptions of habitat and characteristics of each species. And we're trying to paint, it may take 50 years, but I'm trying to paint a representation of a species from each genus of flora, fauna, and fungi. And lichen, I don't know. My passion holds no bounds. But, and it's just bit by bit, species by species. But the goal is to compare these drawings and descriptions to biodiversity surveys taken by botanists and biologists backwards in time, to track the changes in populations, including invasive species, and also the way that certain species have changed due to the climate crisis and changes in the climate and ecology. So several of these botanists that I'm thinking of reflecting upon their collections, so going all the way back to Cyrus Pringle, about 100 years ago, and then Nellie Francis Flynn and Hub Vogelman more recently, and they all took surveys, but also took very intricate notes about the place and the context for the species that they collected. So that's the hope for this project. But now I'll take a step back and say, I am not a scientist. So what am I doing here trying to describe translating science? I'm also not a translator, so to speak, but I think anyone could be, because translation is not transcription. Translation is a creative act. And so my translation is observing and researching science and nature, and then through my background, which is creative writing and visual art, communicating to a more broad audience, and also through storytelling, comics, paintings, and other hybrid text and image things. I don't know. Poems, essays, books that I produce, hopefully connecting more people and bridging the humanities and the sciences, so the natural sciences and the hard sciences, through storytelling and art making. And this is just a simple example of some of the comics where I combine text and image. And I call them comics. I mean, it's just a shorthand for saying something that combines storytelling and description and research. And they're all nonfiction, so it doesn't matter the form that it takes, but they're all truth, so to speak, about science research that I conduct and then translate into more creative forms. Currently, I am doing this at Kenyon College. I just got a fellowship there to study and teach science and nature writing. And it is a strange position because it is straddling somewhat awkwardly the English department and all sciences. So I am in creative writing, and that's where I house the classes that I teach. But then I'm also connecting with biology and physics and chemistry and medical sciences and food systems, and hopefully bringing students in from all of these disciplines, and then teaching them my craft of creative writing and how they can communicate science writing to all sorts of different types of contexts, and hopefully fewer paywalled, inaccessible articles in academic journals that are really hard to access and for a lot of people really hard to understand, including myself. So selfishly, I want science to be more accessible, and I also want it to be more fun. So that's what I'm doing with my work. One of the projects that I am working on at Kenyon College is to try to bring together creative writers, queer theorists, botanists, biologists, mycologists to inquire about queerness in science. And my current working title for this future anthology is Queer Flora, Fauna, and Fungi. So if you are researching this and writing about this, come talk to me because I could put you in my book. But for me, it's also just about passion and interdisciplinarity and kind of a cross-pollination of I am hoping to bring voices together and disciplines together and break down the barriers between academic disciplines and a more general popular audience through my art and writing, thus translating science. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Frances. So we've come to our last presentation, and I'd like to welcome to the stage Melinda Moulton. And the title of her presentation, Poems by Rowan Wild Riggs, did I say that right? Read by his grandmother.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Thank you for being here. So my grandson, Rowan Wild Riggs, is a speechless autistic, and he talks with facilitated communication using his iPad. Ro is a poet, and these are his poems. Hit it. Great gobstoppers, a dear and calamitous issuing of chaos, cups and grumps Cheerios in bed, taste the new and frequent. Confused by the universe? Growing, the world comes into focus. Do we like what we see? Poem. A sad flower sees you and blooms under a sky that glows dearest to the presence of your smile. Together we ask the tops of mountains to be built for you. Even the cheddar moon is moved by your goodness. We are warmed by the fire of your heart. Poem. Scratch the desperate desires of your soul and tame the itch. Throw yourself into the tantalizing reservoir and swim with your conscience. Catapult the concerns that scream in your heart. Be your own oasis and dive into the bliss you will encounter in the depths. Poem. Entwined in the lyrical downpour, I stand soaking. Dripping off my fingertips fall the dappled, dreary desires of great impassioned obscurity. Droplets dangle from the deranged combed hair, and I open my eyes to the radiance of you. Poem. Dance like a lost lover who slipped on their own vanity. Traverse a part of the reflected harbors of lifeless compassion, awash in mottled fears of solitude. You own this waltz. Be kind to the partner who lives in your soul. Poem. Jingle on the dreams of cherished garlands and tinkle on the tapping of crystal goblets. I drink the effervescent, illuminated spirit of your holly jolly laughter. Bring on the warm wishes as I embrace you all. Poem. I like to linger on rainy days. I love to stand as I salute the coming deluge. I party in the confetti of the airborne washing machine. It helps me clean the dirty laundry of my life. Poem. Peaceful poet preaching as passing deer on snow with sprinkled morning grass breath. Hot air mixed with cold rain. Roaring heart thumps a hunter's beat. Dodging a bullet, I see our eyes ignite. Go in peace, blessed, awesome warrior. We are one, beloved. Poem. You are for me to enjoy. I want you forever. But death, it is a grotesque silence that we are listening to. You can steal summer, but bring her back to me next year. Poem. Earth Day Savior, Earth Day Mother. Losing fascinating pairs of heartfelt family shoes. Fit your feet into my love shoes. You are hoarding all love too close. You're our Cinderella, I am a prince, and you are my good grandmother. Poem. Easy streets are now set on fire. We look into the burning trash cans where the homeless are kept warm. Sing civil war between unhealthy American pride, spitting on your enemy. Heal us, we the people. Poem. Pools of joy fill my river. You with me can boat across. Mastering peace in friendship with love. Set sail, O sailor, directly to the moon of our hearts. O joy. Poem. Tread on me lightly. Don't take the path that is obvious. It will only go in a circle. Do you just want to go back to the beginning? Round and around goes the third rock from the solar system's atomic core. I stand on its surface, and I enjoy the view. Poem. Twirl in tantalizing treble of traveling torrent. Skate on the frothy tempest of the north wind. You, the vessel of the bellow of his lingering lament. The twisting travel that will cover the carpet of warm wishes. I grab a hot mug and gaze at the ballet of frozen wonder. Poem. I'm too cool for weekday school, said the free-thinking bunny rabbit, so I'll bask in the fun of the Simpsons' good humor. We read good thoughts. Ring a bell, Ro-Ro, pool friend. Laugh till you spill chocolate milk out of your nose. Laugh with your brother, Phoebe, forever. Eating on a shore with cheese falling on the sand. Resting, I look at the water's edge and dine on hope. A crab just cut the cheese. I hope to get a laugh, but no one sees what I see. Hope is the strength you find in falling stolen food. Poem, love is the answer. Always bright sun and good-hearted smiles. Deep thoughts into your piano. Stretching, we reach together to the bright sun. Your heart beams are radiant. I am happy sunbathing in them. Poem, give what you can to the winds to scatter like turbulent leaves, twirling and shaking and floating about. They disperse to everyone and give us hope. I want to dance in the leaves, and I want to offer them to you. Poem, sprinkle brightly and float around, touching down and growing up, bursting open and consuming, crashing tide, washing back a stagnant melancholy. Whistle about our tune, it is elemental. Poem, if we eat a peaceful feast, we fill up our stomach with adoption. Invite the misfit orphan. Those in castles are poor and starving. Let's invite them too. Let us feast on peace until we are all adopted. Serving each other, we are one. Thank you.
Well, what a special night we all shared. Let's give another strong round of applause. I could never say it as eloquently as Ferene did, but it does take a lot of guts and courage to come up here in front of everybody and share a passion. And I am so thankful for everybody who's done that this evening. So wonderful, wonderful night. So just a couple quick notes as we wind up. The Media Factory website, these are where you can find the videos of the presentations tonight and from presentations from the last 13 years, really. So if you're ever interested in looking something up or sharing something that really inspired you tonight, this is where you go. They'll be up in a couple of weeks once they get edited. Okay, we know you do. It's itching in the back of your head right now. You're like, oh, could I do it? Could I not? You can do it. You saw it tonight. So please, come on up. Find anybody who's got 640 on their shirt, and we'll help you out. We're here for your support. We support you in this process. So please, we'd love to have you share your passion. And then we have a brand new website. It includes all things PechaKucha. You can learn how to present. You can learn about upcoming events. There's a video there that shows a bunch of past presenters and why they got involved and what it meant to them. So please take a visit. And there's also some highlights. Thanks again to our sponsors. And thanks to the team. If you want to be a part of the team, come up, see me. We'd love to have you join us. Thank you all. Have a great evening.